Good morning, Monica. How are you?
Good morning. I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to have you on the show. We got to meet during I think the first art exhibition I had at the gallery, the queer art exhibition back in July.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And you brought on this amazing painting with a character that looked just like Janelle Monáe, and I fell in love with it immediately. Yes, I think the focus of the show was on black, it was queer futurism. So yeah, it was perfect. I enjoyed it. And then in talking to you, I found out that you've done law school, you do tarot, and then you're very involved in the community. And I want to, talk to you today about that and learn more about your involvement in the community and some of the projects that you're working on because they're very, without giving too much away, like they're very centric on helping artists protect themselves creatively.
Absolutely.
But before we get on to all that, I want everyone to learn about you. And so, could you tell us a little bit about where no, I'm gonna rephrase it. Who are you this moment as an artist, and what are you most excited about with your art practice?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And it was an honor to be a part of the exhibition. It was just, you have put amazing exhibitions together, and being able to be a part of the Queer Futurisms one was an honor. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Again, Monica, I go by. So I have a primary artist name, which is Móni la Artivista. And I got that name. I wanted to provide background for that. The name I've used, Móni la Artivista, has been with me since college. So, for those who are not familiar, artivista, is an art and an activist. It's a portmanteau, I believe is the correct way to say you combine two words together. Because pretty much like for over 15 years, I have been an activist. I have been a community organizer, but I've always first and foremost been an artist, right? It is my first love. And I was born and raised in South King County in the Seattle area to Mexican immigrant farm worker parents. And it's a mixed citizenship status family. And I grew up observing a lot of injustices in my community, and also just dealing with a lot of daughter of immigrant stuff, both positives and also hardships, right? And one of that I've really dealt with is really very much really wanting to pursue what I love, right? Because I feel like a lot of themes that I've encountered, I'm 31 years old now. A lot of themes I've encountered just throughout my life is like wanting to make my family proud, and which in turn, like wanting to heal people and wanting to do things for others. So, what I wanted to do with my heart, right? Artwork, my heart work, it always was in the side, or it was very much like oh, this isn't something like I should pursue professionally. And so when I was right before I started college, I was going to go to art college, but it was severely discouraged. So it was very much like art. It was something I pursued, tried to do part time, like take back what is mine in about 2017, 2018, but I put it on the back burner. And it wasn't until really like over the last 2 years, shout out to therapy, that I really just like, what do I want to do that brings me joy? How can I continue? Who am I? And so I decided to make a pivot from the law to art. And I did graduate law school. I graduated in law school December 2024. I took courses on intellectual property, on contracts. I have a background in community organizing, right? And in college, while I was still like doing a bit of art and combining my artivism, I stuck with that name, right? So now I have an LLC. I'm a visual artist, a multidisciplinary artist, and I'm bringing those experiences with me in creating art, in doing projects.
I love it, and I resonate with that too. I'm not sure how familiar you are with California, but I'm from Bakersfield, California, where we have a lot of, I say students, but also like they're my friends too. I say students because my mom was like the school counselor there, and so I'm used to her saying students. But a lot of our population, it was a lot of the parents like they were just coming over from Mexico, and they're trying to provide for their families, and there was a lot of pressure on, you know, business degree, science degree, engineering, lawyer, because it was, we've done this so that you can do this.
Mhm.
even my own experience, like within the Black community, there is very much of we've overcome this, therefore you need to do this to make sure that we're successful for generations. And at least for me, sometimes it feels like sometimes arts get forgotten, and those I've talked to, they feel almost as if there's like this betrayal of what they've inherited because they've chosen to pursue something outside of those designated roles or things that they were told they could pursue. And so, yeah, I think going back to your portmanteau is that it is a form of activism for us to be in art and to partake in that healing work.
Absolutely, and I have family in Bakersfield, actually, so I'm
So, yeah,
yeah, I Delano Bakersfield.
yes,
Yes.
yeah. And so, I guess, what pulled to you as like what in art pulled at you to pursue it as a profession and to really make that jump?
Yeah, what really pulled me to pursue it as a profession is, I mean, really, like, what do I want? I mean, really, how do I want to spend my life, right? Like, what do I who am I? And I, quite frankly, wanted to live a life aligned with joy, right? And pursue my authentic self. So in pursuing my authentic self, I know I need to be an artist, right? I cannot lie to myself. I cannot lie to others. And I really like that being authentic. So I publicly came out as bi, as queer, right, a few
Okay.
years ago. And that, like, coming to terms with my authenticity, all of me really started pulling out the layers and like the shedding of, all that I built up of who it was like I still was myself, but I wasn't fully myself. And I very much, like, pushed back and knew deep down also, like, what you were saying about art and social change. Art has always been the center of change. Without
Hmm.
art, we cannot have social movements. Without art, we cannot create the foundations and the changes that then change our political structures, change our legal structures, right? A lot of times people want to say, like, you can only be a politician or you can only be a lawyer. Those two, those are the ways that you make change. I believe it to be an elite lie because really people have the power. We see that they're unionizing, right? We see, and honestly, like, when systems have failed marginalized communities, we have always done art. And art is, I saw this quote. It was like, artists are the most subversive, or artists are the most dangerous because art can be in any social status, like any social class. Like, you think about it, like, anyone buys a painting and it could be in these, like, prestigious walls or what have you, and it's like, "Whoa, this is like a socialist message," I don't know, or just something like that, right? I think of Diego Rivera's murals. I think of how, like, in the Rockefeller Center, when Diego Rivera, painted this mural and he had this image of, who was it? I think it was like Lenin or Trotsky or something, and they were like, "Don't have that image," right? Not even just, like, talking about just art is powerful. And so as a profession, I have an LLC, which is about my visual art, which is about visual art. It's about my performances because I'm also a performer and it's a tarot reader. So within visual art, I do paintings. I also do lino cut printmaking, but I also organize events. Um, so with these events, it's very much about how artists can protect ourselves, right? And also doing things and collaborating with others to create spaces because I think our existence is resistance, right? So
Yes.
all anything where we can show up unapologetically ourselves, as marginalized communities where we can celebrate us, right? Like, that alone is resistance. And many of us, myself included, I was very much like the weird Chicana. Like, I was like the nerdy, artsy, mystical, emo Chicana, like in middle school. And I felt very like multiple, I don't really fit into any box. But nothing was bad about me, right? Nothing is bad about ourselves. We deserve to be uplifted. We are all light. So it's about creating artworks, creating events that remind us of that.
Now, I have so many questions, but I do kind of want to, since you touched on high school, take us back. Like, who were you in high school? Like, what was the vibe? What was the aesthetic? What group did you hang out with?
Man,
I'll share mine too, so you're not in it alone.
no, you're good. I was it's interesting because like when I was very involved in, organizing in politics, I want to say like 2014, like 2021. I mean, I still volunteer and stuff, but there was like a period in my life where they'd be like, "That was Móni? That was Monica?" So I'm like, "Hello, everyone. This is me having healed my inner child." So, when I was in high school, I was very much the artist, but I was very much middle school, high school. I was like the goth punk rock witch. Um, Definitely very like challenging. Even from like an early age, I was always like challenging the patriarchy or like challenging cis hetero or like racist things, right? Like I was just like challenging in my own way. And I was very much like involved in the anime club. I was involved in chess
Yep.
club. I was like but I had like a combination of friends from all over. So even though like I mostly hung out with like the witches, the anime nerds, the nerds, I still kind of like floated a little bit cuz even from like an early age I'm like I don't want to like box myself in, right? Like I want to be able to weave through because I always had that instinctual thing. I was very shy. I was very very shy, I was a little bit bullied. So because, but it's awesome being able to see like, I've done all this work and I'm still like we're all a work in progress. And I've like really taken who I am and like, integrated it to who I am now. One fun fact in high school is I did paint my high school's mural, which is still up to this day. I was also like my favorite teacher in high school. Shout out Linda Sismore at Lindbergh High School. She was the art teacher. She gave me like a corner in the art room, and I was always welcome to come and paint, and I helped her out with a class here or there, and I would do like pastel portraits and stuff. So yeah,
Very cool. Okay. We have some overlap because as you were like talking about who you were in high school, it feels a little familiar. I was definitely, I was interesting because like my parents had me in church almost every day of the week, right?
mm,
But at school, I was hanging out with goth kids, the witches, MA, Yu-Gi-Oh Club, drama kids, and I was kind of
yes,
bouncing around trying to find, um, my community and really get plugged in. And so when I heard you say that, I was like, I feel like we would have hung out in high school, like we would have crossed paths.
yes, absolutely, I agree.
Something I wanted to, kind of dive into is before we got into that, you had mentioned that you do performance as well. And so, I've seen the art portion, I've seen the tarot, but I've heard about the performance and wanted to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I am an actress. My friends say my filmmaker friends say I'm an up and coming actress, so I'm gonna own that label.
Nice.
So I was a haunt actor. I was a haunted house actress at Fright House Station in Tacoma in October. It was not a traditional haunted house where like you go through like a cornfield or like there's just a scare. This was very much a fleshed out plot and kind of like a movie in of itself in Fright House Station, which is Freight House Square in Tacoma. It's where like the sounder drops off people. It's like this thing, it's like a warehouse kind of thing. And everyone had a character. There was a whole plot. So it very much was theater in of itself. And there was auditions to get through and a lot of people who ended up getting chosen for the haunted house like had a theater background, were actors in the area. And so as a result from that, I deeply bonded with some people at the haunt. And so I'm going to be in three movies 3 independent movies. I have done improv, so I'm gonna continue the improv track at Unexpected Productions, so shout out to them. They're the
Yeah, I've
group
heard
at
of them.
Yep, group at Pike Place, the Gum Wall. I've done through Improv 300. I've done performances and I've been on the stage, and I really love improv. So I started that about a year and a half ago. And so I'm going to continue the track starting in January. Yeah, and just continue to do improv, and continue to build as a performer. I have some ideas down the road that combining the activism with the theater and the performance, but they're cooking still in my brain. I'm trying not to let my ADHD be like, before you finish this, go on to this, right?
Stand.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, Moni, finish these things that you have in motion before you uh go on to another thing, right?
Yeah. Um, so okay, Unexpected Productions. I've been there before for their I think it's their improv games.
Yes.
Okay, are you? Is that you? Like, are you on the stage doing that, or because I know they have a lot more programming. I just to connect.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that may be the theater sports, but they also have other games.
Okay.
So I have only done duos, which are on Wednesday nights, I believe. That's where like it's kind of a open mic thing where anyone, literally anyone of any improv experience level can go on stage. So I have done that a couple times. And when we were doing our showcases for our classes where we would go on stage and it was for the public audience, I've done that. So being a part of like the more consistent casting, that's when you, like, become part of the ensemble, right?
I get you. Yeah. Very cool. It's I'm watching the not to. I know you're not supposed to break the fourth wall while you're doing a podcast, but I'm watching as the camera changes color and I'm realizing Seattle is actually getting some sun in the middle of December, which
Yeah.
is insane.
Oh, yeah.
So so we have the art aspect, we have the performance aspect. What got you into tarot? And I kind of want to spend some time on this because you really flipped my understanding of what it is upside down
Mm.
beyond what I just see in media. And so I want to learn a little bit more about that.
Yes. Oh, man, I love talking about this. So, as I mentioned in high school, I was very much like I was amongst witches, and I very much was kind of like I mean, I was like a little young witch. I was like a baby witch in middle school and high school. I was the kid, even back in like fifth grade, where I would read astrology charts. And I remember I brought an astrology book. I was like 9 or 10. I brought it into my class and it was like a break. And I just started writing out a chart, and my peers were like, "What the heck are you doing?" And, so it's always been an interest of mine, right? The occult. And I discovered tarot. It very much started with astrology and palmistry, but I was introduced to tarot from one of my good friends in high school. I was a freshman. Their name was Zach, and they were very immersed in like Celtic, kind of like witchcraft kind of stuff. And it's like, whoa, this is really cool. Also, an artist. Zach took me to a new age shop, which no longer exists, that was in Renton. And Zach was like, you really need to learn about this. I think you would like it. And I got my first tarot deck at that shop after I think someone did a reading for me. I was like 14, 15, and it was like a starlight deck. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. So I spent some time learning about tarot for a year, 2 years. I started doing readings, not just for myself, but for family members, for friends. And I kept it very quiet because in that period of my life, I was still really up until like 29, 30, where I was like, I need to be acceptable. I need to be palatable into certain kinds of audiences. So I kept it very on the DL. But in college, I did some readings for some activists, a few people that are in the area, especially BIPOC activists, Black and Brown activists. And they really appreciated the readings that I did for them. And I continued to do it on the DL. And my partner really, he was like, hey, you're really good at this. You should do this. You really should do this. Like, people love your readings. Like, be authentically yourself. So, shout out to Cliff for encouraging me to be public about it and a few others. So, I've been doing it at markets for about 2 months now. And I very much enjoy actually this is my deck that I can show. It is I use it. I have another deck, but
Hmm.
this is the Afro Brazilian deck, which is traditional tarot, but it has some Orisha energy because it's from like the sister religion of Santeria, Candomblé. So this is like the magician, right? And I think tarot is a very powerful tool of self-discovery. I always have been of the mindset that if you go into like a psychic or a tarot reader shop or reading and you get just like a bad vibe and they're very like, you're gonna die, or you're this is bad, I don't think they're legit. I don't think they're legit. I think tarot and mysticism should be very much like, hey, I'm giving you some insight. This is upon yourself, to what do you feel is right, right? And I think that I'm very much about integrating light and shadow with both. I think like when you integrate both aspects, I think, you really heal. So I take that upon myself and my values. Tarot has like king, queen, very gendered. I like to more consider when I see like the king or queen like cards, I'll be like, this is more about masculine femme energy. It's less about man or woman. I like to queer the deck. And I see some decks out there that are like queered, right? Like it's not like king, queen. It's awesome. So that's like the mindset I take. And combining my tarot with my visual art, I'm creating lino cut series of the tarot major arcana remade. So like I did the guillotine instead of the tower. I did La Muerte instead of death. And so I was like at
I
Pratt
love it.
like doing my decks, and now they're like on shirts. So yeah.
Hey, so wait, okay, I don't think I knew that part. So you've taken them, you've also put them on shirts and merch for people to wear.
Yes, I wish I had that, but yes. So now that I have the block print, I'm like, oh, can I find it? Now that I have the block print, definitely I'm now in the process of like just getting blank shirts so I can just mass print them and have them available early next year. I'm like, whoa, that's next month.
No, I know. Time moves fast in the art world. People don't realize that.
Man, yeah.
And so I wanted to ask, you know, it, it's really cool to see how activism in every single medium you take on, it presents itself and it arrives. And I wanted to ask you, for artists who, they're just discovering their voice and who they are as an artist, but they also know that they need to go a step further and join in and be activists. What's your advice for them to help them, get involved?
Absolutely. I first encourage like I encourage first and foremost like let's be a little courageous, right? So I think being able to take a little bit of risk and being able to be courageous in our authenticity and how it shows up in art, having that mindset shift, even though it's hard, does wonders because when we allow ourselves to take risk and be courageous, right? That shows up in an image in a painting, right? So like say someone's like, man, of course with limits and with boundaries and everyone's situation's different, right? But pushing the envelope a little bit, it's like, well, perhaps I do want to critique the administration. Perhaps I do want to try a little bit subtlety, right? You don't even have to say like I painted a little red hat. People don't need to know that it's a MAGA hat, but you know it is. And so when someone looks at your painting, even if it's abstract or surreal, it's like, what's that little red dot? And be like, what do you think? And then you can open it up. So things like that. I encourage fellow artists to push the envelope a little bit. Even if you're not completely in your face about it, do it. As far as like other steps in interact, because I think I'm of the mindset, and others may not agree with me. And this may be a little rough, but I think it's important as artists, as performers to recognize I think there's a fine line. If we just end up making art a certain way, or if we don't take it upon ourselves, we end up being court jesters for the monarchy. Now let me break that down.
Yeah.
Historically, a lot of like the monarchy, right? Like kings, queens, they would like purchase, and we see this we kind of see these dynamics, maybe
Hmm.
I'll unpack it, but we kind of see these modern day dynamics where the wealthy class, they will purchase art, or they will like be like, "Oh, I want this performer, but you have to do it a certain way." They police our image, or like, and we end up just entertaining the ruling class. We end up just entertaining the oppressor, to be quite frankly. So, but that's when we lose our agency, right? And that's when we just, again, it goes back to that mindset. It's like if we're just living a life and if we're just creating for others, we end up losing our authentic voice, right? So, I think it's important to have that mindset, and also seeing ways, reaching out to activist groups that are in the area and asking, how can my art support your movement, right? And like saying, "Hey, do you all need help with signs? Is there a way I can create an installation? Is there a way where like this nonprofit or this group, hey, can I organize this exhibition? Can I do this, and then part of the proceeds go to support the efforts of said nonprofit? Can I?" And I guess for some people that maybe are like in corporate, or like have corporate day jobs, like there's like pro bono. I guess kind of using that pro bono mindset with our
Hmm.
craft. It's like, for the most part, I'm going to do what feeds me and make art that sustains me. But also, how can I, delegate a bit of time to make these like pro bono activities, right? There's different ways. I think it's also important to have that balance where we do better, but also we don't burn ourselves out, and we remember to create art that sustains our joy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Something that I really realized. I said this to a couple of times to other people. While I was running the gallery, I really realized the importance of community,
Mhm,
especially when it comes to activism and burnout.
mhm.
And I was telling someone, I was like, it's a really crazy, creating a gallery is a crazy way to finally learn that lesson, that you have to have community to prevent burnout, to really have the message go out. Um, and that's something that I've told other artists as I've talked to them, and they're like, oh, how do I do something like this? Or how do I was like, you got to find that community. You got to get plugged in, because it really cannot, it can happen in a vacuum, sure. But the thing about a flame, or passion, is it gets snuffed out in a vacuum because there isn't enough oxygen feeding it to keep it going.
Yes, yes,
Heading into 2026, what are some things you're looking forward to?
yes. So 2026, I mentioned this earlier, gonna be in 3 movies. They're gonna start production. So I'm very excited to do that as far as my performance go. I'm looking forward to, I feel like, so I have these personal milestones, and then I have like the community kind of things, uh, in both combined. Yeah, so definitely the movies, continuing to build up in that performance aspect. With my art, I have this last year, I have been able to, especially in the last couple of months since I've made the pivot, I've made creative pieces, I've made paintings, but I started series, and so I'm really excited to finish those series. I did the groundwork, or like I did 1 or 2 paintings that are part of a series on the dark feminine. So I'm excited to finish that. I'm excited to work on and finish my Rebel Tarot deck series, which are the lino cut. And also like continuing to, so just like what I started, even if I don't fully finish, I'm excited to finishing more. Getting more established in the artist community, continuing to get more established and continuing to build community, continue to collaborate with others. And then also same thing with my tarot, right? Like I have ideas that I started and I want to cement further into my tarot. I'm working. I don't know how much details I can give out yet, but
Yeah, I want to go into that detail, but I do before we do that, I want to go into the dark feminine and learn a little bit more about that.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's event series which I've talked with you about that
Yes.
I'm
Yes. Yes.
looking forward to doing that. But yeah, the dark feminine. So have her right here. So this is Lilith for everyone. This is a statue. Shout out to Gargoyle Sanctuary in the Ave in the U District where I got her from. So why did I show Lilith? So a lot of times when I read tarot, I have this alias. So it's like I have Móni la Artivista, but I have this alias, especially when I do tarot, called La Hija de Lilith, which is Lilith's daughter. And Lilith is of the family, as I call, of dark feminine goddesses. So goddesses of the dark feminine. And throughout the world, throughout the throughout different countries, there have been these goddess-like figures which embody these qualities. So Lilith is one of them. I'm going to mispronounce it, but Mictectihuatl, the Aztec goddess of death, is another. Kali in, I believe, India is another. There Baba Yaga is another. And not even goddesses, but and then in West Africa, there are definitely as well. And I think in Egypt, um, I think was it Isis? Like there's a couple,
Yeah.
and then there's Hecate. So all throughout the world, there have been these goddesses and these figures which are the dark feminine. And so oftentimes when people talk about the feminine, it's like I need to be nurturing. I need to be even submissive, or like I need to be the light bringer. I need to be the caregiver, which I'm not dismissing these qualities, right? I'm more simply like femmes, you could be woman, non-binary, however you choose it. But if you identify more as femme, it's like I have to be a certain way. But in reality, the dark feminine is about embodying the qualities that people say women, femmes should not be. So it's like owning my sexual power, being loud, not needing to smile, pissing off the patriarchy because I am demanding justice. Right? It's like these figures, or even like the dark feminine shows up in qualities like activists, right? Like I think of like Angela Davis is a perfect example of someone who embodies the dark feminine, right? Speaking out against injustice. Like a lot of times women, women of color, black and brown, femmes, right? It's like queer women. It's like you have to be quiet. And that's like the dark feminine is about challenging that. And when you honor the dark feminine, you are tapping into the divine feminine because it's about, being able to incorporate all, right? The light and the shadow. So I started, so I painted Mictectihuatl as Santa Muerte. I did an oil painting. The painting is currently on display at Centro Cultural Mexicano in Redmond. So she's up there right now. She was one painting that's kind of like starting that series, and I've sketched out a couple others. So I'm looking forward to making paintings, um, about that.
Then I wanted to ask, and this is like my observation. So I noticed that you said the dark feminine, it is embracing those characteristics that are typically not ascribed to what is feminine. And in a way, it's kind of breaking out of that, it's that mold, it's that framing that everyone's put you in. But I'm kind of connecting it back to you coming out as bi. It is kind of that shedding of self that everyone's forcing you into, and more so embracing the fullness of you. And I'm also ascribing it to myself coming out as gay and non-binary and everything else. It's really embracing both sides and being able to show up as your whole self. It's kind of what
Yes,
I'm getting. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
nice. I love it. And so I wanted to ask, what something that you've mentioned to me before, something you mentioned earlier, is that you're looking at doing, workshops to help artists understand how to protect themselves legally as they get involved in activism. In terms of protecting yourself as an artist, as an activist, what are some things that you're seeing right now just in the art world?
So there are like some day to day, and then there's some overarching themes. So I have seen, especially when it comes to speaking out on the issue of Palestine, I've seen artists and even like abolish ICE, right? When artists create artwork and post it online or just make it publicly with these issues that are directly, challenging the Trump administration or again, issues related to Palestine, artists get shadow banned and the art is severely so it's the art is severely like limited, right? Shadow banned. And sometimes the artists I've seen will, essentially try to get punished. I mean, like, if an artist is too political, I've seen I believe, I don't know for sure, but it gets wrapped up in, "You're gonna lose this grant. You're gonna
Hmm.
lose this grant opportunity." I have noticed also that a lot of artists who have, no shade whatsoever, but I've noticed that more often than not, artists who get the grants usually will not be explicitly political, right? So it's like you're getting punished in that way. You're not getting like the funding but you're also getting shadow banned. You know, you're getting punished by less exposure, right? You're getting punished by less sponsorship. Um and and then, like, I've also seen, artists where they want to sell their work, like, the images I know personally an artist, like, her image got, like, scraped, or scrubbed from an online thing, and then, like, someone used that image and sold it and, like, they literally yeah, they got her art and then like, started printing it because they got it from a website, right? And so she's like, "Oh, shit. I need to heavily watermark my art,"
Hmm.
right? And I know an artist about 2 years ago, it was them, but also another artist where they were pretty high up, like, they were pretty high up in the art world, and they noticed that their art was getting replicated by AI. When people would prompt, "Make this art piece based off this or that," it was pretty much their same art style. So artists were not creating their work, or people were not like, they were doing their art and selling it. So these kinds of things, right, are scary. And I also noticed, like, with the rise of AI, it's like artists' work are in danger. So that's why it's so important for us to protect our work legally, um, and have protections, and also advocate for policies, for regulations, stricter regulations with these big companies. And I think it's important to speak out about this, right? So, yeah, and then also just like day to day where people may not think it's like a big issue, but still an artist will be working on something with an organization. There was no contract. And then all of a sudden, all the work, sorry, we're not going to go with you. We're going to go with someone else. So it's like those kinds of little things.
Which brings me, I think, to one of my final questions. And this is kind of a situational. It's for me as an artist. No, 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 no. It is for me as an artist, but I also realize other artists go through this as well. So this is just not for me too. It's for other artists as well. But when it comes to contracts, I come with the standpoint of, if I put a contract in place, it's kind of gross. Um, it's kind of supporting an establishment, or I'm not really friends with this artist as I'm trying to make friends and build community. But I'm also realizing that that is not the case. Contracts are really important. And so, could you explain the importance of having a contract? Because I'm still learning this lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awkward for me too. I mean, I had a situation with a very good friend, extremely good friend. They're a musician, and she was like, "Hey, do my cover art," and like we're really good friends. And I was like, "Okay, so let's talk about logistics and contracts soon." It was awkward, but the thing is, like she got it right. Like she understood. It's important. I mean, it it's important because, like, unintentionally, right? Like, even if we're all well-meaning as artists, like, it's really important to know the terms. It's really important to know, the things because it ends up I mean, I see a contract kind of as a boundary. Like, it's it's about loving me as much as you, right? So I feel like if we have that mindset when we think of contracts, it's like it's a boundary, right? And boundaries are important in healthy relationships. And as artists, so many of us want to give so much to others. Like we are so heart open so many times. But in order to protect us but others as well, we need that contract. So I definitely like the earlier the better. I mean, I think, like, in terms of brainstorming stuff, right, like, that's totally fine or, like, potential, that's fine, but I think once the project, whatever it looks like, gets in motion, I think it's important to have that contract. Contracts, from my understanding, I'm not a bar licensed attorney, but, like, once you have things written down, right, like, it could be, like, an actual form. I mean, I think more of a form type of situation with the contract, the better, right? Things in writing. It's just important.
Yeah. I noticed that I don't do a full contract now, but I will do like emails or like write it down on Instagram. That way we can go back and say, on this date we said this, and this is what we're. But and it's interesting to navigate because I think because so many artists, even when I've taken art school, I don't necessarily remember them having an art business class 101. It wasn't
Yes.
until I did the business side of things I was like, oh, there's some things that we need to know. So that might also be like why everyone's so like kind of squeamish and nervous around contracts. But the grants we fill out and the grants we have to comply with, all have contracts though.
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many. I mean, there are stories where actually I think this was in talking about music, this was in Stick from Dead Prez. He had a book, I think about he published a book and then he gave examples in the book about how, like, artists that we see in the music industry, they've been unfortunately taken advantage of, uh, because they didn't have a contract to protect themselves. So, it's really unfortunate. We definitely should have, like, an art business, like, class in art schools or, like, more readily available in the community.
Especially because I think art, not everyone goes through art school. So like even if it's just in the community, it's a pop up, it's a workshop.
Absolutely.
Nice. But so my last question that I'm asking everyone when we do podcasts, it's just get to know you better as an artist. But if you could apply any theme song to your experience as an artist, what would it be?
Well, this is a great question.
Right? Because all artists have their playlist.
I do have my playlist. Ooh, man. Defying Gravity from Wicked.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Which version?
Uh, Oof. I like both. I like the play and I like Cynthia Erivo's. Let's just say both. The
Okay.
play and the
Nice.
movie.
Very cool. So there's no love for Glee's version.
I have not heard it actually.
Really?
I need to hear it. I'm writing it
Actually,
down.
I don't. I'll be honest. I don't. I think they did a good job. It's been a while since I've heard it. That was my introduction to Wicked. Was Glee way back when?
Nice.
Yeah. Well, cool. And so then finally, where can everyone find you? Um,
Yes, absolutely. So I have a website and I have social media. You can find me at Instagram, primarily at Moni la Artivista, MoniLaArtivista. Same thing on TikTok, same handle. And my website is www.monilartivista.com. And you can email me monilartivista@gmail.com. But I'm very active on Instagram. I'm getting more active on TikTok. And yeah, you can find me on my website too.
thank you so much for your time today, and everyone. That information will be in the show notes below. Thanks.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.